Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Controlled Interests Gamecast, a video game podcast focused on good vibes, thoughtful criticism, and celebrating the things we love about them. I'm your host, Jerrad Wyche, and today we are covering the shakeup at Microsoft, some news about PlayStation exclusives headed to PC, and the topic of the show. I'm going to be covering all of the announcements at the Pokemon Day 2026 Pokemon Presents. I'm recording this actually about an hour after the show ended, the presentation. So a lot of new information. There will probably be additional information coming out after this podcast is posted. But I'm trying to do my best to gather as much information and talk about it as much as I love Pokemon and Pokemon Day. A lot of interesting and exciting announcements coming out of the Pokemon Presents today. But before we get into that, we have to start with the quote-unquote Quickie news. Man, was it a big week for Xbox. We had Phil Spencer retiring, Sarah Bond resigning, and Ashish Sharma being named the new Executive Vice President and CEO of Microsoft Gaming. There have been a lot of talk about this. This happened last Friday after the podcast went live, and since then, there's been a lot of talking points. A lot of people have given their opinions. I'm considered by a lot of people to be like an Xbox guy, which I am, and I like the platform a lot. This is scary in a lot of ways. Asha Sharma, if you look into her past, she has connections to AI, some birth rate stuff, a lot of troubling, curious background for somebody taking up this position. In the week since, she's kind of went on her own PR campaign, doing a kind of softball interview with Windows Central and Jez Corden. No shame at Jez Corden, it's just the way they handle these interviews. He really couldn't get anything worth note in the interview. It was kind of a I don't know. It was a weird thing. I wish they would have went to all the outlets instead of just going to one and then very much controlling the messaging there. She's also been replying to a lot of accounts on X. Not necessarily the best accounts to reply to. Obviously, she's getting criticism for her gaming history and all of that. Either way, it is a very weird time, especially with their comments talking about they want to get Xbox back to what Xbox means to the fans. Some people are taking that as, oh, they're going to return exclusives back to the platform. They're going to double down on the console. I don't know. To me, that means a multitude of things. It could mean that they kind of size down and close a bunch of studios and kind of focus on a few pillar studios and franchises, which is scary. I don't want people to lose their jobs over this. You know, Phil Spencer wasn't perfect by any means. Obviously, he's responsible for the layoffs of numerous individuals and job losses and all of that. That being said, a lot of the other stuff that resulted in those layoffs, the acquisition of Activision, and all of that kind of was from the top down, right? With the Game Pass thing, the Xbox Everywhere thing. We don't necessarily know how much of that was Phil Spencer. But there have been stories coming out since the announcement of his retirement. He was a good dude. He made sure to reach out to people in the industry when they were going through tough times. And I do think overall, since he took over, he has righted the Xbox ship after the disaster of your Xbox as a TV. That whole era of Xbox was kind of the Xbox One announcement and release era was not great. And Phil Spencer came back. He doubled down on backwards compatibility. He helped shape a lot of the creative landscape through the acquisition of talented studios prior to Activision. And overall, I think he was a net positive for Xbox. Who will say what happens? There's stories coming out about why Sarah Bond resigned. In my opinion, you never want to believe the first story you hear, right? Because there's stories coming out about how she was difficult to work with. You don't know the reasoning behind these stories. You don't know who's basically supplying the information. I'd rather wait, sit back, give it a good 6 months to a year when we get a full, more well-rounded story from journalists, maybe like a Rebecca Valentine, a Jason Schreier, somebody else out there, and we get the full story of what went down. Asha Sharma, I'm willing to give her a chance to prove me wrong, but her history and everything going on with Satya Nadella and Xbox has me very concerned about the future of Xbox. But like I said, I'm willing to give her a shot, and hopefully it isn't as bad as we all assume it's going to be. not much else to say there. I think a lot of people have already given their opinions, and I kind of want to wait for a lot more of the information to flesh out, like I previously stated, before I come with a full take. But we'll see what happens. The future of Xbox is very interesting, and we'll see if they return more to the exclusive living room console that we were used to in years past. Speaking of, it seems that Sony PlayStation might be heading towards that way because reportedly they're pulling back on their PC ports of first-party single-player focused games. This was talked about on the Triple Click podcast featuring Jason Schreier, and it seems like they may be hesitating to go forth with fully committing to releasing games on the PC. A lot of us previously thought we were headed towards a path in which it may be day and date, maybe a long way out, but that was the eventuality. It turns out it may be returning the opposite direction. We may be getting to a place where console exclusives are a thing again from both sides. They have been with Nintendo and continue to be, obviously. The tough thing here is that I do not like console exclusivity, especially when consoles are going to be more expensive than ever the next generation, and there isn't huge discernible differences between the two. I really wish everyone had access to every game. Obviously, that's not the reality we live in, and it's even tougher now because as the consoles get more expensive, it's going to be harder for people to buy multiple consoles, and you're going to kind of have to miss out on a lot of exclusives for one reason or another. The only way I would support exclusivity like this again is if it came with the promise and understanding that, you know, these developers and these development companies would have added job security, less burnout, you know, all of the pro worker stuff that we want out of these corporations. But that wouldn't be a part of the vision. You know, it's all about money at the end of the day. It's the downfall of a capitalist society, and it's unfortunate. And I hope we're not reverting back to these kind of closed off ecosystems. But it seems like between Sony PlayStation saying this and the vague comments from Asha Sharma, we may be heading back towards that, which is very odd. In a lot of ways, you know, we've seen these companies kind of extend themselves, and now they're in a point of retraction. Is that due to the economy? Is that due to the parts issues that we're having in the PC landscape? Probably a bit of everything, but it will be interesting to see what happens with Wolverine, Marvel's Wolverine, coming out later this year. A new date actually announced, September 15th, which is 6 days before my birthday, so it's a nice little early birthday present. If that ever comes to PC, or if that's the first one in the line of PlayStation being like, yeah, actually, we're going to keep those to our platform so people can stay, especially with the delay of the next gen. They want to pull more people into their ecosystem. Let's not put these things on PC. Let's force people to get into the PS5. Who knows? We'll see. Now, for the topic of the show, Pokemon Day 2026, Pokemon Presents announcements. This was an interesting showcase. It ran a little bit longer than 25 minutes. Less cross-media announcements than I expected. None, actually. It was all video game and card game related. There was no movie, TV show stuff, which was quite shocking to me. I really thought that they were going to have some big announcements. But let's get right into it. So first off, they talked about the Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue game music collection. Now, first up, they talked about the Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue game music collection. This was interesting. It's a little Game Boy jukebox designed after the original Game Boy, and it plays various Pokemon tracks via these cartridges that come with it. The rumors I saw, mind you, I am recording this about an hour after the presentation ended, were that it's going to cost about $80. Unclear how many cartridges it comes with. I tried looking on the Pokemon Center website, and it's currently down, at least in my area. So I don't have any other information there, but $80 seems like a little bit of a steep price, but it is a cute little novelty to celebrate the 30th anniversary, and it was announced to be available today, the day of the Pokemon Day presentation, which was February 27th. Next up, they talked about the Pokemon World Championships for this year and a new fan-focused event called Pokemon XP. They're both going to be held simultaneously in San Francisco, and they're going to be taking place between August 28th and August 30th. So that'll be fun for people going out to check that out. I do like that they're adding a fan-focused event. Obviously, the Pokemon World Championships are the competitive side of things, and it's nice to see them kind of merging those two and having a place for both competitors and fans alike to just get their Pokemon community fix in a meaningful way, which is really nice. The Pokemon trading card game teased a 30th anniversary celebrations type set. It's going to be a set focused on classic beloved cards from various sets of the past, and it teased the future, and it featured Mewtwo and Mew. Not really much other information there outside of it coming in 2026, and it seems to not be one of the already announced sets for this year. Seems like it's going to be an additional set, similar to the ones we saw for the 20th anniversary. So we'll see what happens there. Pretty interesting. I wonder how that's going to affect the collector market of these reprints. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there who aren't too happy about that, but for all the people who just want to check out the card game and collect and have fun and not turn it into a business venture, I think it'll be awesome to get a lot of these reprinted cards that are no longer accessible to the normal person. So I think that's an awesome plan there for Pokemon. Next up, I'm calling this the section of non-Jerrad Pokemon stuff. There's a lot of Pokemon games, a lot of mobile games, and I personally have no connection to them, so I think it'd be a little bit disingenuous to be excited about them, but I do want to mention them for the people who enjoy these various Pokemon products. The first up, Pokemon Go, showcase that they'll see a return of a ton of Pokemon that were previous in the game coming back this year to celebrate the 30th anniversary. Next up, we had Pokemon Masters EX, getting a 1996 watercolor original Pokemon art version of Red, and anniversary versions of two other trainers, Florian and Juliana. Pokemon Cafe Remix sees most first partner Pokemon getting special outfits. Pokemon Sleep is receiving new missions the night of Pokemon Day, which is pretty fun. It featured Mew in the trailer. Pokemon Unite, the MOBA, is getting the legendary Kanto birds, Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres. Pretty fun set of announcements there. I know people kind of dip their toes into Pokemon where they can, and for one reason or another, they play these random side titles, and it's nice to see Pokemon supporting each of these in their own way. Some more than others, obviously, but everyone getting a little bit of a tiny announcement there. Pokemon TCG Pocket, which is the only mobile game I really play, is getting 30 days of gifts missions, which is nice. They touted by the end of it, you'll have enough to open 10 packs, which is 120 of the in-game currency, which is funny because recently in a lot of their mission structures, they've kind of pulled back on the amount of hourglasses they give you. So it's funny to see them kind of touting this of like, here's a little bit of a nibble. But yeah, nonetheless, excited for the future of Pokemon TCG Pocket. Next up, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness is coming to the Nintendo Classics GameCube collection in March. I remember playing this game on my GameCube, and I never got around to beating it. Something about it just didn't click with me as a Pokemon fan. It felt a little odd, a little weird. But now that I'm in my mid-30s, I like that it exists. You know, it's not the typical Pokemon journey. It's not the copy and paste. And I'm interested to see if I'll hop in. I can't commit to anything because who knows if I would. But I do like that it's accessible now. And I am very curious to hop in. That trailer brought back a lot of memories and a lot of parts of the game I never saw, which were also quite surprising because, like I said, I didn't really get too far into it at all. So, Gale of Darkness, glad to see that it's accessible once again. Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, we had these leaks/announcements last week, but they kind of just reiterated that they're going to be available on Pokemon Day for $20. Not much else to say there. Pokemon Champions. This is the new battle-focused Pokemon game. Probably going to be the future of the competitive battling scene for the video games. It's going to be coming in March 2026 for the Nintendo Switch. And a mobile release is set for later in 2026 as well. I guess we might have known already that it was coming to mobile. I guess I didn't clock that initially. But I'm glad to see it have a release date. This isn't a game for me necessarily. I'm not a battler. I'm more of a collector. I do like the battle aspects of the games, but not enough to kind of min-max a Pokemon team and train EVs and IVs and all of that. It's just not something for me. But I'm glad it exists for the people who love it, and I do think it's going to be an interesting way to showcase the competitive battling on the world stage for Pokemon World Championships moving forward. And hopefully the presentation is cool enough to allow the broadcasters and players themselves to do some exciting and fun things. And who knows, this might one day be the premier way to battle, and I think that's what Pokemon is planning on. Pokemon Legends ZA had a small little announcement. The owners of Mega Dimension DLC are going to get a Mega Garchomp Z form. Fine, I thought it was going to be something more than that. It's whatever. Mega forms don't really do too much for me, but once again, maybe they'll be a huge part of Pokemon Champions. Pokemon Pocopia had a new trailer. This game comes out next week of recording, which is March 5th. The Rotom Stereo was revealed, which is pretty cool to show off soundtracks in the game and play music from the various different titles throughout Pokemon's history. And then Greedent was revealed as the cook in the game, who's going to be providing meals for your Ditto and all of your Pokemon partners that you kind of explore the world with. New features were showcased. I'm very excited for this game. I have it pre-ordered. I wasn't sure if I was going to get into it, but these Minecraft, Animal Crossing type games scratch a part of my brain that I can't wait to get into with Pokemon Pocopia. Very excited for it. Now we have the big announcement, or I should say the numerous reveals. Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves are the title of the Gen 10 game. This is a very interesting trailer that they showcased to end the whole presentation. It started off with a realistic rendering of the quote-unquote new Pikachu design in a room where there was sketches being made showcasing the history of Pokemon, and they open the door to water, and out pops custom Pikachus, a male and female version of some vacationers looking like they're about to be in the newest season of White Lotus. Then we get the landscapes and environments of these games. The terrain looks detailed. I think the environments themselves look varied and interesting. The lighting is great. It really, I don't know performance-wise how it's going to do, but in terms of just visual fidelity and detailing and the world, it seems like they're really upping their game, the Pokemon Company, and I'm excited to see what this looks like closer to release, which we'll get to that later about the release date. I hope that people see the work that's being put into this game, because for me it's pretty evident the strides that they've made to make these games look better. Now, are they the top of the line that people want the Pokemon franchise to hit? No. And I do think with as successful and financially successful the franchise is, we should expect more from them. But I do think this is a step in the right direction. And I'm very excited to see more of what this game has to offer in terms of the exploration and the world. Towards the end of the trailer, we had this long-rumored leaked underwater exploration that you're going to be able to check out under the waves and see the world of Pokemon in a way you've never been able to interact with it before. And it was interesting. It looked fun. I don't know if it's going to... I don't remember what the leak said exactly, if it was that you're going underwater and a Pokemon is going to help you breathe, or if it's like an underwater apparatus, like a sub or something. But it does look fun. The water looks detailed. The ocean floor looks sweet. I do think it's adding a new layer to Pokemon where it's not just what you're exploring on the land, it's what you're exploring underwater. And I wonder if there's going to be an aspect of that with the winds. I wonder if you'll be able to fly into the sky and run into Pokemon flying high in the air, not just, 4 or 5 feet above the ground. And maybe that's the whole point of the naming convention, Winds and Waves, is that not only will you be able to explore Pokemon in a way you haven't with water, the waves part, you'll be able to do so with the air, which is the winds. And I wonder if that's something they're saving for a later reveal. Who knows? Now, the piece de resistance, the thing that people get most excited when a new generation is revealed, these starters. We have first Bowt, which is the grass type starter. The Bean Chick Pokemon. Hold on. Bowt, the Bean Chick Pokemon. Seems like it's a play on chickpeas and garbanzo beans, kind of mashing those two things together. I want to get back to what I think this guy is going to evolve into. We had the Fire starter, which is Pombon, Fire. The Puppy Pokemon. This is a Pomeranian. This is easily the fan favorite, it seems, early on. You get a cute little dog it's going to win over the hearts of everyone. This is probably going to be the fan favorite up until we see what the middle and final evolutions are. I think a Pomeranian Pokemon is an easy win, and it's going to seem to be the one that a lot of people are drawn to. Lastly, the quote-unquote weirdo of the bunch, we have Gecqua, which is water, the water gecko Pokemon. And those are your trio. Now, I have a little bit to say about each of these. The first one, Bowt, very aggressive in its expressions, and I do think that's teasing in a way that it's going to round out the starter bird dual fighting type trio. We had initially Blaziken, which is fire fighting. We had Quackavall, which was water fighting, which was last gen. And I do think that Bowt is going to evolve into a grass fighter. And I'm excited about that. I think it has a chance to be the coolest looking one. Blaziken is a pretty cool design. Quackavall, not so cool. But I do think that they might end up popping off. I love in his design, he has the two leaves coming out from his nose that are kind of similar to the bow tie that Rowlet has. And I like the yellow-green top with the black bottom of it. I think that lends itself to really cool designs moving forward. And I do think that they can really do something special if its final evolution, is a fighting dual type, which I think would be fun. Pombon, I think, has the likelihood of doing something a lot of Pokemon fans hate, and that is taking a quadrupedal Pokemon design, like a cute, adorable little dog, and turning it into a bipedal humanoid, much like Incineroar in Gen 7. I really hope that's not the case. I hope they go the Arcanine route and make this a quadrupedal awesome dog. And I'm very curious to see what they lean into. Is it going to be more wolf-like? Is it going to be more lion-like? Obviously, lion's a feline, but with the designs, Arcanine is both canine and feline in a lot of ways. So I'll be very curious to see what happens there. It has this mane-like forming of fur around its head. Kind of honestly reminds me of Zamazenta and Zacian from Gen 8 from the Galar region, the legendaries there, the sword and the shield Pokemon. And it has a tuft on the top of its head that is very reminiscent of Zorua and Zoroark. So I'm very curious to see how that unfolds as well. Obviously, adorable design. Can't go wrong with the Pomeranian. And then lastly, Gecqua. A lot of times in the starter trios, there's always one of them, not always, but oftentimes there's one of them that has a lot more female energy than the others. For the last generation, it was the grass starter who ended with Meowscarada, who was very feminine in nature. For Gen 7, it was Popplio, Primarina, very feminine coded Pokemon. And looking at Gecqua, I do think the eyelashes kind of hint, and the expression hinted this maybe being a more feminine energy Pokemon. And I'm very curious to see. I think a large lizard that expresses feminine energy could be really cool. We've seen it partially with some former Pokemon like Salazzle, but with a gecko, there's a lot of cool things they can do. Geckos come in many colors and shapes, and I really think that this has an opportunity to be fun. It has the water droplet on the top of its head. It has a cool tail. I think there's a lot of potential with Gecqua's design. I am very curious to see how all of this turns out. Last week on the episode in my predictions, I talked about how I felt as though it was very likely that I would probably fall for... I'm trying to remember, actually. I think it was... I said that I would fall for the grass starter. So I said they were going to be... The game was going to be visually impressive. I nailed that. We'll have minimal voice acting. We didn't hear any at all, so I'm probably wrong on that. That's going to have any at all. I said the water starter is going to be mammal. Wrong. The grass starter will be a flying dual type. Yes, it's a bird, which is cool. We don't know if it's going to be flying. There's some birds that can be normal type. And the fire starter will be a bug reptile. So I was wrong. I got the fire and water starters flipped. The fire starter was a mammal, obviously, and the water starter was a bug reptile. Not too bad. The last prediction I had, which is the one that is the most shocking in terms of what it actually ended up being, is I had the release date being November 13th, 2026. And you may be asking yourself, well, Jerrad, is it coming out before that? Is it coming out a little bit after that? It's not coming out at all this year, which is super surprising. It's not coming out until 2027. We don't know if that's early or late 2027, but it is a bummer to not get Gen 10 for the 30th anniversary. This will actually be the longest gap between mainline releases, 5 years, with Scarlet and Violet coming out in 2022, which is rather surprising. And I know that people have wanted longer dev cycles so the games perform better overall, which I'm not too bummed about. It's more so that it's a 30th anniversary and it not coming out more than, oh, we got to wait another year for a Pokemon game. I just think the timing sucks. But if it was any other year, I'd be fine with them taking as long as possible to develop the game and come out with an amazing product. This leads to a bigger question, though. What on earth does Nintendo have for the holiday this year? We don't know, really. I doubt they lean on Fire Emblem, because as popular as Fire Emblem is, it isn't the type of thing you want to position as a holiday title. We have no idea if there's the Legend of Zelda style release this year. We have no idea if there's a Mario mainline entry coming out this year. They just released a brand new console. I doubt they want to miss a holiday period without the big new release to push the console into people's hands. So it leads me to wonder what that title is going to be. For the longest, we assumed it's a Pokemon 30th anniversary. Their big title this fall is going to be, for the holidays, going to be Pokemon. And even if it wasn't just Pokemon, because Nintendo doesn't have whole ownership over it, maybe it'll be a smaller Nintendo title pairing with Pokemon. Now that Pokemon isn't in the holiday window for the end of 2026, what are they going to release? I'm very, very curious to see what that is. And to me, that means that we're likely going to get an answer to that question in the coming months. I doubt they'll wait up until the Summer Game Fest portion of announcements. I think we'll probably get it between now and June. And it's exciting because like I said, I doubt Nintendo is going to miss out on a holiday period for their brand new console. What is it going to be? My hope, my selfish hope, to coincide with the release of Super Mario Galaxy movie, is a new mainline Mario game. Could that be Galaxy 3? In my opinion, that's a long shot. Could it be Odyssey 2? Long shot in my opinion as well. We recently got the Donkey Kong Bonanza title from the Odyssey team. I don't know. Would they lean on Legend of Zelda ports and remakes? Who knows? I'm very curious to see what happens. I'm excited for Pokemon Waves and Pokemon Winds. Curious to see the difference between the two titles. I think that'll become more apparent as time goes on. Not sure which one I'm going to be purchasing quite yet. I definitely want to see what the legendaries are for each game as well. Off the top of my head, I'd probably be leaning Waves, but who knows? Lugia is one of the dopest legendaries of all time, but I do like Kyogre as well, so I have ties to both water and wind. So we'll see what happens. I enjoyed the announcements. It wasn't the top, oh my god, presentation that some people anticipated. I was happy with Gen 10. I wish we got more from the TV movie aspect of things. And I also wish we got more ports of classic games. I think they're way too inaccessible. And a lot of people are left to play ROMs, which are fine, but I like the official stuff personally. Let's get into real quick what I played this week. Not too much. I dipped back into my comfort food game, which for me is Rocket League. Whenever I feel the need to I have 10-15 minutes to play something, I love hopping into Rocket League and playing a couple of matches. Kind of like muscle memory at this point. I've also gotten back into Magic the Gathering Arena in a heavy way. The new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles expansion is really fun. We have the Marvel Superheroes expansion coming out later this year, and I'm excited to see what happens there. Lastly, I've been playing more Mugenics. I'm about 10 hours in, really loving it. The soundtrack in that game is annoyingly addictive, and I'm finding new fun mechanics and synergies between the cats and their abilities, and I do think there's enough there to keep you going and I'm having a blast with it. I'm curious to see if I'm going to see my way through. It seems like the type of game that might take a lot of time to complete, but it may be the game that I play throughout the year. I may not look to finish Megenics in the next month. I may just be looking to dabble with it over the course of the year and having my final impressions and thoughts on the game by the end of the year, because it just seems like there's a lot of meat on that bone. Other than that, I haven't been playing too much. I'm excited to hop into Pokemon Pocopia next week. I am not a Resident Evil Requiem person. I'm probably going to watch somebody play through it. If not, I'll wait till October to hop in myself. Other than that, I want to thank you for checking out the Controlled Interests Gamecast. Link to our socials, including Blue Sky as well as the podcast feeds, can be found in the YouTube description. Please let me know what your favorite Pokemon Day announcement was and which starter you're looking to have be your partner in the journey ahead. And we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.